Hi guys, I received a word from the Lord on December the 4th, and I'm going to share that with you now. It's entitled, Time is on Your Side. And this is what it says. Time is on your side. My children, why do you worry about things that are in my time, things that are in my hand? Do I not control all things? Can you rush or delay my time? My dearly loved, cherished ones, fret not. All things will come each in its proper time. Time is surely on your side. Each day brings with it opportunity to grow closer to me. Each day brings one more opportunity for you to become more like me. Each day brings with it one more opportunity to love others, to demonstrate my love to a lost world, an opportunity to love and encourage your brothers and sisters. I am doing a great work in the earth, my children. Allow me to infuse you with myself. Allow your heart to become one with mine. Patience, my children. Faith and patience will bring forth a great crop of righteousness in your life. Faith and patience, my child, delights my heart. Can you trust my time? Rest, my beloved. Time is on your side. After I received this word, the Lord continued to talk to me, not in the prophetic flow, but He told me, He said, many people are disappointed over many things because things that they thought would happen did not happen when they thought it would. And I know that the Lord is speaking about things going on in the earth, in the world, but He's also, and I think maybe even greater, talking about things in people's personal lives. Promises, things that they thought was going to happen at a certain time and or in a certain way, and it didn't. And the disappointment, the disillusionment from that, losing faith that it will ever happen. And the Lord, He wants us to keep our eyes upon Him. And guys, learning to rest in the Lord and to trust His timing, that does come with spiritual growth. That's something that's hard to learn. And it's something that I'm still learning myself, even though the Lord has taken me and my family a long way in that because of the past things that have happened, disappointments. And I really felt like, as I was praying and meditating on this word, after I received it, I felt that the Lord wanted me to share a story with you in this area where I was extremely, my whole family was disappointed. But I think that it was the hardest blow was mine. It was in 1996 or 95, 96. I've told you guys before that there was a move of God in Pensacola, Florida, at the Brownsville Assembly of God Church. And God had been doing a supernatural work in my husband and myself. And He had just totally set us so on fire. We were so hungry for Him. And our pastor actually told us about this move of God. There was one going on in Canada at the time, and David and I was going to go check that out. And he said, well, you don't have to go all the way to Canada. The same thing, God's doing the same thing down in Pensacola, Florida. Why don't you guys go down there and check it out? And so we did. We changed our vacation plans, and that's where we went. And it was so amazing. I had never seen God move like that. I had never experienced God's presence, God's glory, a manifestation of God like what was going on there with people being saved, just all kinds of things, people just being set on fire, really backsliders coming back to Christ full on. And I had never witnessed, I'd never experienced anything like it. And it was so amazing. And God did so much in us at that time. But what I want to talk about is that after we visited, David and I both felt like that the Lord wanted us to move there. He was going to move us to Florida. And we felt like that we had a sure word from the Lord. So we began, without really seeking God on His timing, we began to push forward. We thought that He wanted us to go, that the reason that He wanted us to move there was to attend the school of ministry there at that time. So we took all the steps. We applied at the school. We were accepted. We took care of everything. We knew when school was supposed to start. We put our house immediately on the market. David put in to quit his job. And we began to take every step to make this happen. And, we had told everybody, God is going to do this. He's going to sell our house. The Lord wants us to go, and we're just going to step out in obedience. And our pastors was like, how are you going to eat? How are you going to live? And we just thought, well, that's so little faith. God takes care of us here, He'll take care of us there. And that was for sure the truth on that. But, we did everything. And we had lots of people that was interested in our house. But no buyer. Every deal fell through. And it got closer and closer to the time we were to move and to start school. And so we just kept praying and kept holding on in faith, believing and knowing that we were in God's time, thinking that we were in God's time, and that He was going to do it. Even if it was a last-minute miracle, He would do it. Well, the house didn't sell, and it didn't sell, and it didn't sell. And unless it sold, we did not have the money to do everything we needed to do. We had some, but not enough. The move was not possible without the sale of the house. And so it came up to like a month before I began to pack up my house. By the time that weekend arrived that we were supposed to be leaving, my whole entire house was packed. All my closets were empty, my cupboards, everything was empty. Everything was in boxes, stacked up, ready to go. Well, it didn't happen. There was no last-minute miracle. It didn't happen. And I want you to know that I was utterly devastated. I was completely and utterly devastated. And it may not sound as bad as it was, but it was. I was humiliated because we had told everybody, our family, our church family, the people on my husband's job, everybody was expecting us to move. Well, needless to say, that weekend we didn't go out. We stayed in and we prayed all weekend. Well, Sunday was the day we should have been on the road to start school on Monday. That was the last day. So we stayed at home. I cried all day. My husband was angry. I was just upset, just hurt, devastated, hurt. We didn't go to church that morning. We didn't go to church that night, which was unheard of for us. We was always, if the doors was open, we were there with bells on. And so people came by our house. Nobody dared stop, but I could see several times I caught church people driving by our house to see if we were gone or not. And so anyway, by Wednesday night, I had picked myself up, and I went to church, and I went down front, and I worshiped the Lord. And God just really did something amazing and awesome when I was able to do that. But guys, here's the thing. Well, let me finish telling you the story first. 3 years later, and during this 3 years, what we were doing was we would go visit the revival. We would go about once every 3 months, and if we, we'd stay for as long as we could stay. If it was just a 3 or 4 day weekend, then we'd do that. But every 3 months we would go, and we would get our fix. And between times, we would listen to videos. We bought videos. We bring them home. We listened to them. And I want you to know what we were doing during that 3 years was we was pressing into God. We were so hungry. The revival being a part of it kept our fire burning. And so we were hungry, and we were going after God. We were searching the scriptures. like never before, and we were worshiping like never before, and we were praying like never before. And during that 3 years, God was growing us by leaps and bounds. And so what happened was 3 years came and went. And we never stopped thinking that it wasn't God's will for us to be there, move there. You know, we were sure in our hearts. By that, you know, we knew that our timing was way off. But we still believed with all of our heart and soul that it was God's will. And whenever the time came, He was going to do it. But until then, I was not going to worry about it. I was going to be faithful in the church that I was in. David and I was serving still as children's ministers at that time. And different things in the church. But anyway, 3 years passed by, and one day I was sitting at my computer. I wasn't thinking about moving. I wasn't thinking. I was working. I can't remember what I was working on, but I know I was not talking to God about this at all when this came out of the blue. The Lord spoke so clearly in my spirit. I didn't hear Him audibly, but in my spirit He spoke so clearly. And He said, "It's time for you to move to Florida. Put your house on the market." Just like that. Clear as day. I could not believe it. I could not believe that He had said what He said. And so I told my husband. I said, "The Lord clearly spoke to me today. And He said that it's time that we are going to Florida, and it's time to put the house on the market." And so David, he went into a prayer over it. And me and him both went into prayer over it. And he said yes. He said, "Yes, I have a confirmation in my spirit that this is the Lord, that it's time." And so we'll do that. But by this time, guys, I want you to know that I had already come to the place where if God did it, He would do it. And if He didn't do it, He wouldn't do it. And it didn't matter to me. I had made up my mind that, okay, this is working. We can go, we can be apart from, it was over 500 miles that we would have to drive to be a part of these services. But this is working. We can go every 3 months and, whatever. We can still be apart. At this point, I didn't care if I went or not. And to be honest, I had made up my mind that I don't want to give my house up. I like my house. I like being here with my family. I really don't want to go now, Lord. Like it really matters what I want, right? But we put the house on. David called the real estate agent, and I made an agreement with me that we would not sign any papers. That we would discuss, just hear what the real estate agent had to say, and if. Then we would pray about it, think about it, talk about it, and make a decision on whether or not we were going to put the house on the market. Like I really had that choice. But anyway, but I was just, I was resistant now. I don't know why. Just the long wait, I don't know. But anyway, so we sat down and talked to the real estate agent. And as soon as he was over, David was like, he was so excited. He was like, "Okay, let's sign the papers." Even though me and him had agreed not to. But I was an obedient wife, and I shot him some looks. But I signed the papers. We both signed the papers. And he caught it a little bit after they left. And I admit I was a little bit rebellious in my heart. I was like, fine, if God wants to sell this house, He's going to sell this house. I'm not doing nothing to help. I'm not doing anything to help. If He wants to sell the house, He'll sell the house. And guys, I'm really, not proud of my heart, but the Lord is, my heart was not right. But, and so it was like 1 week, the real estate agent called and she said, "I have a buyer. They want to come and look at the house." She said, "The lady is really excited, and I think we may have a deal." And when the lady came, she came to look at the house, and she said, my children, I come by here every day taking my kids to the school that was right up above our house, a middle school. She said, I've looked at your house. She said, for over a year now, I've looked at your house every time I go by and thinking what a cute house that is. She said, and last week I saw a sign go up in your yard to sell it. She said, I knew I had to have this house. and and still I was skeptical, and I was still a little bit rebellious in my heart, and so the lady would want us to do this and that, and I'd be like, no. And she'd be like, okay. I'll take care of that. and anyway, it didn't take long, and bam, the house was sold. And so I was like, okay, we got so long to get out. We're going to Florida. And so the Lord took us. But guys, and it was marvelous. It was so amazing what God did in our lives. The Lord truly did such a work in my children. My kids are who they are because of the influence that revival, being in not just being in church 6 nights a week, but being in the glory, being in the presence of God, seeing a move of God. And it was such a holiness environment, not a fake one, not condemnation. It was just God's presence and the fear of the Lord, and in a good way, guys, not in a bad way. It's just awesome and amazing, and just feeling His holiness. And the kids actually, it was just an environment of holiness. The kids would love and love. People loved each other, and the kids loved each other, and they didn't reject each other. They had a youth group of 400 or 500 kids, and those kids, they loved each other, and it was just an amazing thing. One amazing thing was, so many years went by and there was not one pregnancy in that youth group. That was amazing. That was the spirit of holiness that those kids walked in, true love for God and true holiness. I had youth groups with 20 kids, and over 3 years, at least 3 of them turned up pregnant. And it wasn't that I wasn't preaching holiness either, So yes, it's a difference when the presence of God is there like that. It's an amazing difference. But anyway, guys, what the Lord showed me about this was that time, and the reason He wanted me to tell you the story, time was on my side. And the Lord actually showed me this yesterday as I was meditating, praying, talking to Him about this word and what He was wanting to say. The Lord showed me that once we actually moved to the revival, we just got in the river. We got in the river of God, and everything was just easy, And there wasn't much spiritual growth for me and David. We just enjoyed the presence of the Lord, And yes, He did do some things in us. He did do some things, of course. But the spiritual growth mostly was for my children. And that's enough for me right there. But the Lord did show us that He wasn't taking us there for the school of ministry anyway. But He actually was putting us through an intense school of ministry, as the school of the Holy Spirit during those 3 years that He held us back and wouldn't let us go. And it was because the hunger for God caused me and him to go after God like you just don't know. Just devouring the scriptures and pressing into the realm of the Spirit, and getting to know Him and the level of intimacy. That was the time in my life when I would dance for hours every day in His presence and worship for hours and study the scriptures. There was times when I would study the scriptures for 40 hours a week, just studying the scriptures. So the Lord showed me really yesterday, really opened my eyes to how time was on my side. How those 3 years He built our hunger up, and then He held it back. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were there, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't studying the scriptures. I was just in the river every day, every night, enjoying His glory, enjoying His presence, just swimming in the river, and He allowed that for 4 years. Not that we didn't do some ministry in the church. We did. That was when we went through leadership training and just stuff the Lord put us through, deliverance ministry training, and house church training, and so there was things like that going on there that was amazing and awesome for me and David. But guys, I just want to encourage you, trust the Lord, just trust Him, and I would like to say too, the Lord did reveal things in my heart. Honestly, truly, I was being very rebellious in my heart. To tell you the truth, He did want us to go, but I was off in my timing. But I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't care about His timing. I wanted it, and I wanted it now. I wanted it now. And I didn't really care what God wanted. In a way, I thought I did. I only saw that wickedness of my heart when the crash came. When the crash came. And I was so devastated, and I was angry at God. I was angry at Him because He didn't do it, even though I had faith. I did have faith. I didn't have trust, simple trust in His timing, but I had faith that He would do it, and He didn't, and I was crushed. And the Lord showed me in that moment that I wanted what I wanted. If I had have wanted what He wanted, I would have been seeking Him on His time as well, to stay in His perfect time. So I hope this ministers to you guys, and because I know the Lord revealed to me, and I had a very heavy heart, that there's people who are crushed, and there's people who are disappointed, and there's people who's disillusioned, and I've been there, so I know what it feels like. I do. I know what that feels like. But God wants you to know that He has every single thing in His hand and in His time. And guys, please try to take the heart and the mind of God and trust His time on things in these last days. And if you will do that, you will not be crushed. You will not be disappointed. You will be in His perfect time and in His perfect will, doing what you're supposed to be doing in the time that you're supposed to be doing it. The Lord is saying time is on your side. And so if the things that you thought was going to happen in your ministry, in your life, in the world, if it didn't happen when you thought, it's because it's just not time. It's just not time. But it is time for something. It's time for you to grow closer to Him. It's time for me to grow closer. It's time for us to be more like Him, to be more infused with Him. It's time to reach our neighbors, reach the world. It's time to help encourage our brothers and sisters, guys. It's time for something, trust me. So let's get the mind and the heart of God and just trust Him and do what He wants us to do in these last days. I love you guys. Bye-bye.